1978, Honda built a sleek little coupe that an entire generation fell in love with. It wasn't the fastest car on the road, or the most expensive. It was just pure joy to drive. They called it the Prelude. And then, about 25 years ago, Honda quietly killed it. Now, in 2026, the Prelude is back from the dead. But Honda did one thing that made longtime fans absolutely furious. They didn't give it a screaming manual gearbox. They made it a hybrid. A lot of people called it a betrayal, the death of a legend. But here's the truth. Once you understand what Honda actually built, and why, you start to realize they might have just made the smartest, most joyful car in their entire lineup. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Iglesias Automotive. Today, the return of the Honda Prelude, the car everyone wrote off the second they heard the word hybrid, and why almost everyone got it wrong. So let's start with why this car matters in the first place. For more than 20 years and 5 generations, the Prelude was Honda's heartbeat. It arrived in 1978, low, sleek, with pop-up headlights and a sunroof, and it became the car a whole generation learned to love driving in. It wasn't a supercar, it was something better. It was attainable. A normal person, on a normal salary, could actually own one, and it was an absolute joy. Over the years, it got sharper and smarter. In 1987, the Prelude became the first car in the world you could buy with 4-wheel steering. The rear wheels actually turned to help it corner. That was technology even far pricier cars didn't have. For millions of people, the Prelude was their first taste of a car that felt alive. And then the world changed. Buyers wanted SUVs. They wanted sensible. The fun 2-door coupe slowly got squeezed out of the lineup, and around 2001, Honda let the Prelude quietly die. For 25 years, it was gone. Just a memory, and a poster on somebody's wall. Which is what makes 2026 such a big deal, because Honda just brought it back. But the moment they revealed it, the internet split in half. Because the new Prelude is not a screaming, high-revving, manual gearbox VTEC monster like the purists prayed for. It's a hybrid. And to a certain kind of fan, that sounded like the ultimate sellout. A legendary sports coupe turned into, what, a fancy Prius? They were ready to write the obituary all over again. Here's why they were wrong. Because Honda didn't build a soft, sleepy commuter and slap a famous name on it. Look at what's underneath. The new Prelude borrows its core chassis hardware from the Civic Type R, which is, full stop, one of the best handling front-wheel drive cars on the planet. The bones of this thing are serious. Then there's the powertrain, a 2-liter engine paired with Honda's 2-motor hybrid system, making a combined 200 horsepower. Now, 200 horsepower is not a huge number, and we'll come back to that honestly in a minute. But raw power was never what the Prelude was about. It was about feel. And feel is exactly where Honda did something clever. Here's the problem with most hybrids and electric cars. They're fast, they're smooth, and they're a little bit boring. No gears, no shifts, just one long silent surge. Efficient, sure, but the connection between you and the machine kind of disappears. So Honda engineered the feeling back in. They call it S plus shift. What it does is genuinely cool. Even though the hybrid system doesn't need traditional gears, Honda programmed in simulated gear changes, using the engine and the electric motors together to mimic the snap of a real high-performance gearbox. Pull the paddle, and you get a crisp, satisfying shift, complete with the rev change. It's the joy of rowing through the gears, rebuilt for the hybrid age. In other words, Honda looked at everything people love about a great driver's car and asked, how do we keep that alive now that the engine is changing forever? The Prelude is their answer, and the price tells you who it's for. Around $42,000. That is not hypercar money. That's a car a real enthusiast with a real job could actually park in their driveway. In a world of $2 million exotics that almost nobody can touch, Honda built something for the rest of us. But to really understand why this car exists, you have to look at the bigger move Honda just made. For years, the entire industry was sprinting toward all electric, Honda included. They set bold targets to go fully electric. And then reality hit. The demand for EVs cooled off. Honda posted its first annual loss since 1957. So they did something brave. They admitted the plan was wrong, pumped the brakes on the all-EV rush, and bet big on hybrids instead. Exactly the kind of bet Toyota made years ago and got vindicated for. Now, here's where it would be easy to build nothing but sensible hybrid crossovers. Boring, safe, profitable. Instead, the very first statement of this new Honda era is a fun coupe, a driver's car. The Prelude is Honda planting a flag and saying, going hybrid does not mean giving up the joy. You can be efficient and still smile every time you turn the key. That's the whole point that the angry fans missed. The Prelude isn't the death of the fun Honda. It might be the thing that saves it. Now, I'm not going to pretend it's perfect. If you were dreaming of a 280 horsepower, manual gearbox Type R coupe, the Prelude is not that, and I understand the disappointment. 200 horsepower is modest. The simulated gears, as clever as they are, still aren't the real mechanical thing, and some purists will never accept that. That's fair, but I gently push back. The Prelude was never the car you bought for the biggest number. It was the car you bought because it made an ordinary drive feel special. And by that measure, the only one that ever mattered for this nameplate, Honda absolutely nailed it. So no, it's not the car the internet demanded. I think it might be the car the internet actually needed. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you. Genuinely. This is the Car Report. Real stories from the world of cars. If you want more, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Catch you on the next one.